This is the higher GCSE revision lesson on quadratic equations, and we're going to have a look at multiplying out a pair of brackets. We're going to have a look at factorizing quadratic expressions, and then move on to solving quadratic equations by factorizing and by using the formula. Okay, we're going to start off by considering this calculation, 26 multiplied by 23. You may be familiar with this kind of grid method. The way it works is that you partition each of the numbers up into tens and units, and then you multiply everything in this side by everything in this side. So the 20 multiplied by the 20 is 400, the 20 multiplied by the 3 is 60, the 20 multiplied by the 6 is 120, and the 6 multiplied by the 3 is 18. In order to get the final answer, you have to add all four of these together. These two add to make 520, these two add to make 78. So all together, add those two parts together, 598. The reason that I show you that is because this is exactly the same kind of thing, apart from where the 20s were, they're missing, and we've got letters instead, but these letters just represent missing numbers. They could easily stand for 20. So the process of expanding this bracket, again, we've got to multiply everything in this bracket by everything in this bracket, and we can use the grid in order to do that. The x times by the x is x squared. The 4 times by the x is 4x. 2 times by x is 2x, and 2 times by 4 is 8. In order to get the final answer, we have to add together all of these four things, but the only things we can actually add together are these two here. So when we expand this bracket, we get x squared. The 4x and the 2x will collect together to give 6x, and then we've also got the 8. Now with a bit of practice you'll get to the stage where you can do all of these in your head, but until you reach that point, try drawing out a multiplication grid. Here's a slightly more complicated example, made more complicated by the fact we've got a 2x here, and made more complicated by the fact we've got a negative term, but the grid will really help. 2x times by x is 2x squared. 3 times by x is 3x. Notice, because of the takeaway sign, we've got a negative term here. Minus 5 times by 2x is minus 10x. And minus 5 times by positive 3 is negative 15. Again, these two terms, these two x terms, can be collected together. We've got, this is equal to 2x squared. 3x minus 10x is minus 7x, minus 15 on the end. Okay, pause the video and see if you can do these three. Okay, the first one, the x times the x is x squared. We've got 4 times x is 4x, minus 3 times x is minus 3x. So they collect together to make positive 1 lot of x. 4 times by minus 3 is minus 12. Next one looks slightly different. The x term is negative and has been written second in the bracket, but exactly the same rules apply. 6 times by x, 6x. 6 times by 5 is 30. Minus x times by positive x is minus x squared. Minus x times by 5 is minus 5x. The x terms can be collected together, and we'll write it going from a squared term, then we'll write the x term, and finally we'll write the number on the end. And then the final one, 2x times x is 2x squared. 1 times x is x minus 3 multiplied by 2x is minus 6x. Minus 3 times by 1 is minus 3. Again, collect these two terms together. 2x squared minus 5x minus 3. Okay, factorizing is the opposite of expanding brackets. To factorize means to take this quadratic and to put it back into a pair of brackets. The way we do that, first of all, well, how did we get the x squared term? We got that by having an x in each bracket, so that when they multiply together, we get that. Now the numbers that go in here are the numbers which multiply together to give 2 and add together to give 3. Now there's only one possible pair of numbers that can do that, whole numbers, and that's 1 and 2. Doesn't matter which way around we write them, these are both positive. Now what you do when you're trying to get your head around how these work and you're practicing these, and maybe even on the exam, write down what you think it is and then go back and check it. Expand these brackets, multiply out and see what happens. Do you get what you started with? If you didn't, then go back in and change the numbers here. That's particularly useful in some of the examples we'll see later on. So x times by x is x squared, 1 times by x is x, x times by 2 is 2x, 1 times by 2 is 2, and the x and the 2x collect together to give 3x. Therefore, that's exactly what we're looking for. Okay, this one down here, slightly more complicated because we have negative terms. It has to be an x and an x because they will multiply together to give the x squared term. Now we're looking for what numbers multiply together to give minus 6 and also add together to give minus x, to give minus 1. Well, write down all the possible combinations. It should be minus 1 that it could be. We could have a positive 3 and negative 2, or negative 3 and positive 2. And go through. Do these multiply together to give minus 6? Yes. Do they add together to give minus 1? No. They add together to give minus 5, so it's not that one. They multiply to give minus 6, but they add together to give positive 5, so it's not that one. They multiply together to give negative 6, but they add together to give positive 1. These numbers multiply together to give minus 6, and they add together to give minus 1. So let's put them in, and let's just double check that. X times by x is x squared. Minus 3 times x is minus 3x. X times by 2 is 2x. Minus 3 times positive 2 is minus 6. Those two terms collect together to give minus 1 lot of x. Therefore, that was correct. Okay, do you want to pause the video and have a go at these? Alright, top one. We have got an x in each. X times x is x squared. We're looking for the numbers that multiply together to give positive 6 and add to give negative 7. You could have 6 and 1 and 3 and 2. Both of those multiply together to give positive 6, but neither sets of numbers add to give minus 7. So consider these ones instead. A negative times a negative is a positive, so negative 6 times negative 1 is positive 6. Likewise, negative 3 times negative 2 is positive 6. But when we add them together, well, this gives negative 5, so that's not what we want. These add together to give negative 7. So this is what we're looking for. If you've tried the one at the bottom, hopefully you've noticed this is different because it's got a 2 on the front. That means it's not just x and x, because they would multiply together to give x squared, and we need them to give us 2x squared. So one of these terms has to have a 2 in front. Now we've got 2x times x will give us the x squared. Now the numbers that we need to go here and here have to multiply together to give minus 3, but it's not just a case of having to add them together to make positive 1. Because this means we're going to have 2 lots of one of those numbers when we expand out the bracket. Let me show you what I mean. The numbers that we're looking for are positive 3 and negative 1, because they multiply together to give minus 3. And we need to have the minus 1 over here and the positive 3 over here. Now let's multiply out. 2x times by x is 2x squared. 3 times by x is 3x. 2x times minus 1 is minus 2x. 3 times minus 1 is minus 3. And these two collect together to give one lot of x. This is an example where you're probably going to have to do a bit of trial and error. You can work out what numbers will multiply together to give minus 3, but then deciding which way around they go, which is positive, which is negative, and so on. Bit of trial and error because of this 2 here. Okay, let's move on and see how we use that to solve a quadratic equation. We've got a quadratic expression, we've now got an equals, so this becomes an equation. In order to solve this, we have to factorize first of all. So you should be getting quite good at this by now. So I'll go through it quickly. We've got minus 12 and minus 3. Okay, what we've got is we've got two things multiplied together equal 0. Think about your times tables. When do you have an answer of 0? Well, you've got to, when you're multiplying two numbers together, if you get an answer of 0, one of the numbers has to be 0. You can't multiply anything that's not 0 together and get an answer of 0. So this one times by this one equals 0, so either this one has to be 0 or this one has to be 0. And what we've got now is we've got two separate linear equations which we can easily solve to get x equals 12 and x equals 3. And what that means is that this equation has two solutions. If you substitute 12 into this quadratic expression, it will give you an answer 0. And if you substitute 3 into this quadratic expression, it will also give you an answer 0. Pause the video and have a go at that one. Right, this factorizes to 2x plus 5 x plus 1. So either that bracket equals 0 or that bracket equals 0. Two simple linear equations to solve. In this one over here, subtract the 5 from both sides, divide by 2, minus 5 over 2, or minus 2.5. Or from this equation, the other solution is that x equals minus 1. Okay, again, do you want to pause the video and have a go at this one? Right, what you should have noticed if you tried that is that this does not factorize nicely. Okay, there are no pairs of whole numbers that we can multiply together to give 1 and we can add together to give 3. There's actually a clue in the question as to how we need to approach this. When you can't factorize nicely, there is another way of solving a quadratic equation, and that is to use the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula is x, the solution to the equation is minus b plus or minus root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, where a is the number in front of the x squared term, b is the number in front of the x term, and c is the number at the end. So if we take, well, in this case, a is 1, b is 3, and c is 1. If we take all of those values and substitute them into that equation, this equation will tell us the solutions. So b is 3, so minus b is minus 3, plus or minus b squared minus 4 times a times c is 4 times 1 times 1 all over 2 times 1. And then we plug that into the calculator. Notice there is no plus minus button on your calculator. This symbol, remember there are two solutions to a quadratic equation. We complete this using the plus to get one solution, and then we complete the entire calculation again with the minus to get the second solution. So there I've typed it in with the plus. That gets me a solution of minus 3 plus root 5 over 2, which is negative 0.38 to do decimal places. And then if I go back in and edit the calculation and swap that plus for a minus, I get the other solution, which is minus 2.62 to 2 decimal places. Okay, pause the video and have a go at solving that one using the quadratic formula. So A is 1, we've got 1x squared term, B is minus 5, and C is positive 3. So x is equal to minus B is minus 5, plus or minus root minus 5 squared minus 4 times A times C all over 2A. Minus 5 is just positive 5, plus root of minus 5 squared minus 4 times 1 times 3 all over 2 times 1. To 2 decimal places, one solution is 4.30 and the other one is 0.70. And one last question for you to attempt again. Pause the video and have a go at this. Okay, the area of the triangle is 17. We've got to find the length and the width of the triangle. Well, the area of a triangle is equal to base times height over 2. In this case, the base and the height are x plus 6 and x. So that represents multiplying our base and height together. And when we divide that by 2, we're told that the area is 17. What we've set up here from the information given is a quadratic equation which we can solve to find the value of x, and then hence we've got the height and we can use that to find the width. Okay, we've got to get rid of the fraction first of all, so we need to multiply by 2. X brackets x plus 6 is equal to 34. Expand the bracket, x squared plus 6x, and I'm going to bring the 34 over to the left hand side. Now it looks like all the other quadratic equations that you've been solving throughout this video. This one won't factorize nicely. You can play about with it and try it if you want, but it won't. So therefore we need to go to the quadratic formula. X equals minus b minus 6 plus or minus square root of b squared 6 squared minus 4 times by a times by, be careful with this, c is minus 34 all over 2 times 1. Minus 6 plus square root of 6 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 34 all over 2 times 1. Okay. One solution is to 2 decimal places 3.56. The other one is minus 9.56. But of course in this case there's only one of those solutions makes sense. X is representing the height of a triangle, it's a length. You can't have negative values for length, so in this context that solution is irrelevant. That is how high the triangle is, if you substitute that value into there, if you add 6 onto your 3.56, then you've got the width is 9.56. Okay, once again, if you go onto the Durham Learning Gateway, onto the numeracy section, go to Key Stage 4 past papers, there is an exam paper there which only contains quadratic equation type questions. I'll put a link on Twitter as well, which you can follow.